came to do. Hey, you know what we came to do? Look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
Here we go, man. Are you kidding me? We're back again for another episode of HBCU Flicks. It's your boy Kelly Flicks. Let's get into it, man. Last week, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Got a little nasty out here. The first 3 minutes of the audio had a nasty echo on it, man. My fault. If y'all don't know, I'm a one-man team, but I'm going to be better, though. We're going to get this together. Hopefully my mic sounds a little bit tighter tonight. And moving forward, we're going to get into it. So my Flicks playbook, what we talking about today. Actually, before we get into the playbook, I got a new little section I want to try out, man. We're going to do a little quick little mini fit check. We're going to start doing these just to show off the different black brands I wear, man. I wear a lot of black on clothing. That's pretty much all I wear. So go ahead, debut it today. And first off, we got Jack's Family Kitchen, man. Shout out my boy Chris, Cameron Hughes. Got me at the exclusive Jack's Family Kitchen Dodger collaboration, man. Y'all get with it. Check out the back, though. You know what I'm saying? Feel me? Don't worry about nothing, but it's, you know what I mean? Got my most hated sweats on. It's Nick Young's brand. So yeah, go ahead, support black business, man. But anyway, let's get into the playbook, man. What's the playbook for today, Flick? So we're going to talk about this HBCU strength of schedule rankings. These rankings are trash. They're terrible. We really going to get into it. Honestly, I can't wait. We talk about Lincoln, CIAA. They have some coaching. Whoa. Changes. All right, I thought I'd change that. Sorry, guys. I said I was going to do better, and look at me. But then also we got a transfer portal update coming from Hampton and North Carolina Central. We'll get into that. So here we go. This is the long list of strength of schedule rankings, right? So this company called theanalyst.com put out a whole article on the toughest strength of schedule in FCS football. Now, of course, our HBCUs are on that list. So I will start off by saying this list is terrible. It's trash. Basura. I don't know what other words you could think of to characterize this list. This list has North Dakota State ranked at 117th. So this also has Mississippi Valley, who plays 2 Division II opponents this year, at number 13. We got to be real. So the analysts, what they went wrong with this list, this is an old school list. You can probably make one of these type of lists maybe like pre-2010. But nowadays, it doesn't hit, right? And for a lot of reasons, but I'll explain it. So the first problem with this list is that it is made up of the combined records from last year. Whatever team, whatever the record was of the team that's on your schedule this year, the record from last year, add all those records up, add them up. So if you're Mississippi Valley, this year you played Delta State. Last year, they were like 12-1. This year you played Jackson State. Last year they were like 12-1. Not too many other schools in the FCS period have played 2 12-1 teams other than like South Dakota State. So that by itself puts Mississippi Valley up there and puts them all the way up at number 13. There's no way they have one of the toughest schedules in FCS football. Not even close. I would argue that it is probably a lower 100, between 100 and 120. But this is all right, so then moving on, we got North Carolina A&T. I do agree with this move here. It makes sense. They're in the CAA. Makes sense, right? Bethune-Cookman, no. You play Savannah State, a Division II team this year. You also play Jackson State. I think any school that played Jackson State last or have them on the schedule this year is going to have a tougher strength of schedule because there was 12-1 last year, right? That's for any team that you play. So this is it's a skewed ranking system, right? Jackson State right now is ranked 120th strength of schedule. They have one of the toughest schedules in HBCU football. Period. Add Texas State on there, it's cherry on top. But that first 6 games is going to be brutal. That will be brutal for any team in HBCU football to go across. So this is terrible. This is bad. Bad. Hampton at 43. We got Southern at 54. Another thing I would say with this type of list is that if you're gonna do combined records, like maybe just only do top 50, because now we get towards the bottom side, it gets a little disrespectful. Now you get disrespectful. The fact that you're telling me that there are at least 20 HBCUs with a tougher strength of schedule than North Dakota State is like a slap in the face to any college football fan. Because we watched the football. We watched North Dakota State beat North Carolina A&T last year 59-3. We saw it. So you can't tell us that their strength of schedule is somehow not as tough as these other HBCUs. You can't tell us that. This is a terrible list. So how would I do it? Felix, how would you do it? So how do I judge strength of schedule? I would judge strength of schedule with these three things, right? These are the main points of emphasis. It takes a lot of other variables, though. Tons of variables to get to this. So number one, take into the account how many home games the team has going into the season. How many home games you have. All right. The amount of games that you're playing versus a team that was plus 500 last year. Just plus 500. Not no plus 10 wins, not 12 wins. No. Just plus 500. Then you take into account roster movement. In today's age, in today's college football, with the transfer portal, if you don't take into account roster movement, you just a grandpa reading the stats and reading numbers to me. You just reading stats and reading numbers. Because we have seen a USC football team go from 4-9 to 12-1 in the following year. 12-2. You couldn't account for that if you're just counting up numbers, stats, wins, and losses from the previous year. If you're not taking into account roster movement, the fact that Caleb Williams makes the move, Lincoln Riley makes the move, Coach Dante stays on the recruiting staff for USC. If you don't take these things into account, you just don't understand football. And quite honestly, you're not doing a good job in giving us the news. This ain't news. This is not news. Anybody could have sat down and crunched these numbers and came up with this article. I'm sorry. This is bad. So moving on from this strength of schedule, at some point I'll put out my own strength of schedule and give you guys a better look at how things look. But moving on from that wickedness, we're going to get into some transfer portal news, and then we'll go to Lincoln, talk about Lincoln later on. But with our transfer portal news, we got Eldridge Dockery transferred from Kentucky State, moving on to North Carolina Central. A very big move. This move is going to help bolster this North Carolina Central's defensive line. Their defensive line wasn't their performance was pretty low last year. Keep it buck, pretty low. Their leader on their defensive line, from what I gathered, is Jaden Taylor. He has 4.5 tackles for loss. That's not going. I mean, that was enough to win the Celebration Bowl. So they don't. North Carolina Central, it's kind of hard to explain North Carolina Central's defense, right? Their defense is a very attacking defense. If you look at their defense in general, two of their defensive backs have the most tackles on the team. More than the linebackers, more than the defensive linemen, two of their defensive backs. And just understanding that, because that's Manny Smith and Khalil Beck. Just understanding that, you also got to look at the fact that 6 of their top 10 tacklers are all defensive backs. This is a very attacking defense. They bring different pressures from different sides. They bring exotic blitzes. What North Carolina Central kind of does, they go 3 down and 4 down. They use their linebackers. Linebackers aren't the biggest guys. They're still like around 220. But with them, they're fast. They use a lot of speed. Eldridge Dockery is also a speed guy. He's a defensive line guy, but he's also a speed guy, in my opinion. I think that they can use him. North Carolina Central can use him in different ways to create more pressures on defense. I think one of the biggest issues that North Carolina Central's defense had last year was creating pressure at times. And we kind of saw the problems with that against Campbell, where Campbell rushes for 500 yards. Just honestly, up front, they were dominated by that big offensive line of Campbell. Now, I'm not saying that Eldridge Dockery, 6'2", 245 pounds, is going to make that big a difference against a 6'7" Campbell. What I am saying, though, is that North Carolina Central can use Eldridge Dockery to go on assignment, make different moves, and create different pressures on defenses. They need that pass rush. Eldridge Dockery helps them with that. So another returner on their defensive line is also Christian Smith, who had 3.5 tackles for loss. Eldridge Dockery last year had 55 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. He's going to be your guy. I mean, a lot of different teams offer scholarships. Norfolk State offers scholarship. Northern Illinois, Mississippi Valley, Indiana State. Then you got the D2s also did. Lane College, Tiffin, Greenville State offered him. Everybody was pretty focused on this guy, Eldridge Dockery, but he chose to go with the Celebration Bowl champions, North Carolina Central. I think this move is honestly going to pay dividends for North Carolina Central when it comes to October and November. When it's time to win, when it's time for MEAC play, I think that's when Eldridge Dockery will pop up. So, moving on from Eldridge Dockery, Tennessee State has something pretty interesting going on down there. The Tigers have just added a wide receiver to the mix. This new wide receiver is a pretty big wide receiver. What they've been doing recently with their wide receivers is kind of just going on the big side, right? You got from J.J. Holloman, who's like 6'6". He just went to the draft last year. The returners are Karate Brinson, who's 6'2", 217. And then you bring back Jahi Blake, who's 6'5", 215. So add Solomon Dunn to the mix, who's 6'3", 205, because why not? Let's just go for the trifecta. So we're looking at a very big wide receiver core. To go with another wide receiver that was pretty good and had I think the game-winning touchdown in the spring game for Tennessee State this year, and that is my boy Adrian Kanan, transferred from Blaine College, 5'10", 180. He's going to be the slot guy. But this Tennessee State wide receiver core is pretty big. Nice size to them. They're able to play up against teams, and I think the biggest question last year was depth, and they were kind of lacking that. They were lacking that in a couple of different places, and it showed. It showed. So this year, I think they're restocking, and they're going to need to open up the passing game much more. The leading receiver last year, J.J. Holloman, only caught for around 400 yards. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to get a lot of guys to come to your school long term either. So get it together. You see what I'm saying? This year coming up, let's air the ball out. Let's get it out around and throw it around the field. I think Karate Brinson's going to bring some of that. And Solomon Dunn, what I like from him really is he has good route running, okay? He lacks experience. He hasn't played many games at all with Eastern Tennessee. He hasn't. But through watching his film, seeing some of his highlight tape, I like his route running. His route running is good. But the thing about good route running is good route running looks good in practice. If we're going to keep it a buck. Good route running looks good in practice when you got no timer, when the bullets aren't flying. Playing in the game, understanding the tempo of the game, tempo of routes in the game, getting chemistry with your quarterback means a whole lot more than just a couple one-on-ones. So I'm interested to see what Solomon Dunn can do at Tennessee State as another one of these big receivers. I like what Tennessee State is bringing for their offense. I think the sky is the limit for this team. And this receiving core, I don't think they'll lead the way, but I think they will play a pivotal part in this offense. What a lot of these receivers did last year, these big receivers did, was blocking downfield. That's how Devon Starling breaks off a lot of those big runs. You'll see, one of my coaches always told me, you'll get the scheduled amount of yards if your offensive line blocks. You'll get around 10 to 15 yards if like your tight end blocks and maybe half the receivers. But if your receivers block downfield on defensive backs, that's when you spring big runs. If your receivers can get their hands on safeties, on cornerbacks, and do business, push them down the field, that's when you break your big runs. And that's when we saw a lot of big runs from Tennessee State last year. And I think that's really because you got these big 6'5" receivers that are absolutely mauling cornerbacks. So from Tennessee State, we'll get into a rather interesting development with Hampton. Hampton is one of the most silent teams. They had a spring game where they only wore shorts and shoulder pads. They do things a little bit different than everybody else. But that being said, they bring in another quarterback into the mix, Jared Lewis. If you don't recall, Jared Lewis was definitely on my 2022 top HBCU quarterbacks list at Delaware State. Last year, 2022, I'm not sure if he was hurt, but at whatever rate, his spot was lost to C.J. Henry. C.J. Henry now is the starting quarterback at Delaware State. Jared Lewis moves on to Hampton. Now, in going to Hampton, Jared Lewis is still one of my favorite quarterbacks in HBCU football, but he goes into a quarterback room that is loaded. They got a guy named Malcolm Mays, big, tall quarterback, 6'5" quarterback that's been at Hampton for the past 2 or 3 years and has pretty much solidified his starting position as quarterback. The only problem is Hampton was like 1-10 last year. So insert Jared Lewis along with one of his boys. He transfers in also with a guy named Bizette Woodley. Just talking about a group of tall receivers. This is a tall receiver here that's going to Hampton. 6'6" sophomore wide receiver Bezette Woodley transfers in from Delaware State to Hampton. Follows his boy Jared Lewis. Somewhat interesting development in knowing that I think Jared Lewis could be the guy at Hampton. Not really sure what their offense is or what they're trying to do. It's really hard to tell when you're looking at like a 1-10 team. They're not making a lot of winning plays. They're losing a lot at the line of scrimmage. It's very hard to judge this team, right? I do like Malcolm Mays as a quarterback. Also like Jared Lewis, but I do want to take a look at Jared Lewis and his play because he dropped his highlight tape on YouTube. Might as well give you guys a good look at things and how Jared Lewis plays. But I'll tell you guys off the rip that he's a guy that throws some three quarters. It's look a little awkward. It doesn't come out sidearms, not over the top, but it's 3/4. He has a nice throwing motion, but the ball really pops out of his hand. If you ever see a lot of his throws downfield, the ball pops. Now, the only thing I will say about Jared Lewis is that sometimes he lacks a little bit of that touch that you want. Sometimes you want a little bit more touch on the ball, especially on the short range passes that we didn't always see. But he played pretty well for Delaware State. In 2021, he threw for 1,300 passing yards, 20 touchdowns. I need him to work on his touch. I think that he benefited a lot from having Sivion Wilkerson in the backfield with him last year. In 2021, Sivion Wilkerson ran for almost 1,000 yards. He ran for 990. So I think that helped him. But I do think that Jared Lewis is able to lead a team. I like his processing. He's pretty quick processor. A lot of times he gets it down. He has to bring his feet and his arms. As long as if everything mechanically matches up for Jared, I think that he can be a very potent quarterback because with time in the pocket, when he has time, he absolutely shreds a defense. A lot of times when he's on the move and he has to make a different play, throwing the ball on the run, sometimes he'll elect just to keep running the ball because honestly he can't get his feet around or get his mechanics correct. So those are just bigger leaps for him. But I think he could definitely be an effective quarterback in the CAA and for Hampton. He provides an option for Hampton when it comes to quarterback. Malcolm Mays will be a senior this year, big senior, and I'm sure he'll get a chance or he'll get the nod at quarterback. But what Jared Lewis provides for you is some consistency back there at quarterback. And possibly if things aren't going as planned like last year, you give Jared Lewis a chance. I think Bezette Woodley also could get some nice run out there. There's a very good receiver at Hampton right now that's, so underserved, Ramon Copeland. And in Ramon Copeland, you got a 5'9" scat back receiver that could do it all. He absolutely went crazy into destroying one-on-ones this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So Hampton does have a couple of pieces. It's going to take a lot to pull all this stuff together. But I thought it was worth mentioning that Jared Lewis, one of my top HBCU quarterbacks, is on the move and on his way to Hampton. All right, so got through Hampton. Yep, got through all our additions. Now, after talking about our additions, we'll talk about it's not an addition. It wasn't even nothing bad, but it's like promotions. We got some more promotions for you guys. So with these promotions, we got them from Lincoln University. So with Lincoln, if you don't know, the head coach last year of the football team was Coach Josh Dean. And Coach Josh Dean now moves solely into the administrative side of the athletic department and has become the assistant athletic director. And he promotes Frank Harris, Coach Frank Harris, who was his defensive coordinator at Lincoln. He's been the defensive coordinator for the better part of, get it for you guys, I want to say 4 years. And really, let's make sure we get this right. Okay, so he's been a defensive coordinator since 2018. Sorry, you guys. He's had extensive time at the Division II level, coaching at Fort Valley in 2009. In 2013, he was defensive line coach at Kentucky State. So this guy knows the Division II landscape pretty well, and also naturally knows his region pretty well too. Coming from Lincoln, you go all the way down to Kentucky State and Fort Valley. So he's been around the block a couple times. He's going to be a new head coach in the CIAA. And quite honestly, I think he's ready to do it. A lot of times we see guys get hired from within. I love it. I love when guys get promoted. I think it's good for the team. A lot of times if you look at a football team and you want to talk about a new head coach, hiring from outside is not always the best option. Hiring from the outside can sometimes hinder your team's success. If you want to continue to, if you think your program is going in the right direction, but it needs more wins, or if you just want to make some changes administratively, the safest way to do it is to hire from within. The safest way. You will maintain and retain all of your players. Everybody, usually when it comes to getting a new coach, the players will vote for an assistant coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. We'll just pick him. I like him. I like Coach so-and-so. Let's bring him on as a head coach. I'm with it. I like it. I think he's done it. He's done it before at another school. He's talked to us about it before. I agree. Let's do it. So in hiring Coach Frank Harris, I think this is the right move administratively. When it comes to, moving on from your long-standing head coach, Coach Josh Dean, who has built this program through the ups and downs of it and even gotten to the administrative side to, honestly, I think help the football program. Keep it in-house. I think the program is a program. You have a great quarterback up there, and that boy Isaiah, he's a great freshman. He's going to continue to get better and better every year. I think Coach Frank Harris is the guy that needs to right the ship. So with Coach Frank Harris becoming a head coach, his first hire, he hires as defensive coordinator. He promotes his DB's coach, Dimitri McCray. Coach McCray was the defensive backs coach since 2021. So for the past 2 years, he's been DB coach. The defensive coordinator that moves up to head coach decides to promote his DB coach to defensive coordinator. Love to see it. Chain link, bringing everybody up with you. Everybody get an increase in pay. Everybody get that raise, get that promotion. I love it. So I think this is great news. I like the in hiring. I think this is the right way for Lincoln to move forward. And I would be interested to see which ways Coach Frank Harris moves his program in that's different than Coach Josh Dean, because he's gonna want to do it his own way. Every coach wants to do it their own way. No matter you get the torch from anybody, you want to do it your way, because everybody has their own philosophies, right? Everybody's gonna have their own assistant coaches. I'm sure Coach Frank Harris is not gonna keep every assistant coach. He has his guys. This guy has a long coaching history. He's met a lot of guys along the way that he thinks that can help this program. So which ways will he help it? So we'll be on the lookout. We'll stay on tracker to see who else is added to the staff, if the staff moves any, because if we're being quite honest, with a move this late, this move is made, today's June 25th. This move was made on June 25th. A move made this late, we probably won't see too many changes on the staff. That might be something in December. You might see a flip. Because, quite honestly, you go into the season, you have some deficiencies and go, I got a reason to let you go, brother. So, all right, I'm going to give you your papers. You walking papers. You go ahead, take off. Don't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? But right now, though, not too sure how many coaches you're going to find as free agents at this point in the game. A lot of guys already have their teams. They're recruiting for other programs. You might be hard fought on trying to find them. Maybe you add 2 guys to fill your spots, right? Fill the defensive back spot. Maybe you add a quality control type of guy, or you add some video guys. But quite honestly, those moves will happen, but might not be this summer. All right. So we've gone through a lot of stuff this week, guys. Went through it seemingly pretty fast. I'll make sure I got through everything before we get done with this. I am glad all you guys are tapping in with me, staying tapped in. This week we're gonna full launch the whole YouTube. We're gonna showcase our powers, man. We're gonna streaming video games on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights. Stream for about 3 hours. We're gonna stream NBA 2K23, and we're gonna stream Battlefield 2042. We'll be streaming that. You guys get a bar of that. Go check it out. We're gonna be on there just talking. I'm gonna have the Discord on there, just talking. All the homies. If you want to join the Discord, hit me up. Hit the comments if y'all disagree with anything I'm talking about. If y'all got beef, if y'all want to talk it out, we can talk it out. Ain't nothing to me. Love talking to you guys. Along with that, 323 Thursdays is coming. It's coming. Keep hinting at it. It's coming. I'm trying to talk about it too much, but I do want you guys to know that I will be interviewing different players, athletes from California week to week, every Thursday, about their experiences at HBCUs, whether it be in the SWAC, the MEAC, CIAA, if you go to GSAC, if you're going to SIAC, Tuskegee, Morehouse, bro, wherever. Bowie say, I want to hear from everybody's stories, and I want to hear what it's like being from California and going to HBCU, because I didn't go to HBCU. So I want to hear your stories. Y'all let me know, man. I appreciate everybody for tapping in with me on this stream. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.